Well, I have a confession to make. When I first started my Google advertising agency 12 years ago, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I mean, look at those kids. They're clueless, right? I didn't have parents who were entrepreneurs that I could learn from. I didn't have a business degree. I didn't even take a single business class or financing or accounting or really anything helpful for me in college. I actually have 2 theology degrees. Like, what am I supposed to do with that in business? Like, pray over my clients, I guess? Well, I think that this lack of experience definitely put me at a disadvantage in many ways. I think it gave me one huge advantage, and that's that it allowed me to view success differently than the way that our culture traditionally defines success. And I think that's really positively impacted the way that I run my business and my life. So if you're a business owner like me today, I'd like you to think about this. How do you know if your business is successful? I find too often we equate size with success, as if growing larger is evidence that you've made all the right decisions and it's the best possible outcome. Kevin O'Leary, the well-known investor, Mr. Wonderful on the show Shark Tank, he's been quoted as saying, "You may lose your wife, you may lose your dog, your mother may hate you. None of those things matter. What matters is that you achieve success and become free. Then you can do whatever you like." Now, ton of respect for Mr. Wonderful. Clearly he's accomplished a great deal, and I have to think he's exaggerating to make a point here. Nevertheless, there are still many who hold to this line of reasoning. I think it can be dangerous. Is sacrificing everything dear to you just so you can make more money, is that actually success and freedom? Because the funny thing is, if we listen to those that our culture typically views as successful, we can often hear the opposite. Actor Jim Carrey quipped, "I wish everyone could get rich and famous and get everything they ever dreamed for, so they can see that's not the answer." So look, this isn't to shame anyone who has wealth or status. Those are actually very helpful tools in life and in business. But surely we can agree that there's been a relentless pressure on business owners to equate business size with business success. And the ironic thing is, according to the Small Business Administration, there are 33 million small businesses in America, and that accounts for 99.9% of all businesses. So small is very normal. 33 million businesses can't all be failures just because they're not larger, right? I think we've allowed a very narrow definition of success to creep into our thinking, and that is, if you're not chasing revenue growth, then you're not successful. But what if we could actually improve the quality of our lives and our businesses by reframing and redefining success? So today I'd like to offer a redefinition of success to you. But let's first pause to consider, why does this even matter? Well, there can be a dark side to business ownership I don't think is actually talked about a lot. According to the National Institute for Mental Health Disorders, 26% of all U.S. adults struggle with a diagnosable mental illness, including depression. That number is far too high, and as we've heard today, surely there are things that we can do as a society to address that. But alarmingly, an article published by Harvard Business School identified that business founders are twice as likely as the general population to experience depression. Growing a business is stressful, but it's not just the founders, is it? It's often those who are closest to the founders, including their employees and families, who can bear the brunt of sacrifice, just so this business entity can grow. So look, we're not going to solve depression with this today, but I'd like to just remove a little bit of stress off of us and off our employees, off of our families, by redefining success, by shifting the goal we're aimed at. So, what should be the definition of success? Okay, well, here's where it gets tricky because, how I practically view success is going to be very different than how you view success. And that makes a lot of sense, right? We're unique individuals. We have unique skill sets and abilities and mindsets and knowledge and even businesses. So I'm not here to define practically exactly what success looks like. But I would like to offer just this general formula that I think can help you rethink the goal of success in your business. There are 3 parts to this formula. The first is, are you achieving the purpose for which your business exists? Now, you may have personal goals, such as traveling more or spending more time with your family, but that's not what I'm referring to here. Rather, your business purpose can be as simple as, what problem does your company solve for your customers? Have you ever thought of that before? I don't think you can determine whether you're achieving your business purpose if you've never actually defined it. I found once I identified my business purpose, how this old way of success chasing revenue could actually hinder or even actively work against that purpose. When the first crossroads comes your way, you have a choice. Will you sacrifice product or service quality for the sake of some profitability? Will you cut this corner just so you can chase growth a little faster? I find so often it's not some huge philosophical moment, is it? It's more the boring Tuesday morning decisions when this first comes. It's death by 1,000 cuts for the sake of profit. So what does it look like to choose purpose over profit in the small things? Well, a couple of examples, local examples. My wife runs E-Marie Photography here in town, and she's not afraid to do a reshoot in the rare instance that a client's not totally happy with their images. It's purpose over profit. My go-to spot during business lunch is Rocket Wraps. Rockets is open just at lunch and just on the weekdays. Certainly hinders their ability to turn into some international wrap behemoth, but that's not their goal. They just want to make great food. They have really good desserts, by the way. And it's a family-run business with happy employees who've worked there for years. It's purpose over profit. So what problem does your company solve for your customers, and are you willing to achieve that purpose even sometimes at the expense of profit? I think that's a sign that you're running a very successful business. And by the way, it has nothing to do with size. You can actually be large or small and care about achieving your purpose. So that's the first one. What about the next? Well, are you building a sustainable business? Look, the first rule of business is you have to stay in business. So purpose over profit is important, but purpose with no profit, that's not successful either. A sustainable business, by the way, doesn't just mean profitable, as if lack of money is the only way a business can fail. A successful business also avoids such issues as legal, cash flow, ethical, or staffing issues that can arise from this obsession with chasing growth. How you build your business impacts its sustainability. Consider the cost of losing a great employee because you've overworked them as you've pushed for growth. Suddenly you have training costs and hiring costs and productivity costs and just the cost. Even if this new employee is good at what they do, they just don't know the ins and outs of your business like the old employee did. Jerry Hammer, he's the retired CEO of the Minnesota State Fair. He understood this principle well. In a recent talk in Raleigh, North Carolina, he noted, "Get good people and pay them well. One good person is as good as 10 bad." That's not Jerry, that's the mascot. Refusing to improve workplace conditions or keeping unrealistic expectations on your employees, that can actually hinder your ability to keep your doors open. All that to say, pursuing your purpose is very important, but you must do so in a sustainable way in order to have a successful business. Okay, so that's the first two. What's the third? Well, are you, and here I would add, are you and those within your sphere of influence free to pursue personal wellness? Now, what in the world is wellness doing in a talk about business success and business ownership? It's because wellness matters. Remember my statistic earlier about business owner depression? Surely we need to rethink our goals of success when 1 out of 2 business founders in this very room could actively be experiencing depression. What's the point of starting a business and making more money if you're just going to be miserable all the time in it? Now, we may absolutely disagree on how to pursue wellness and how to define it. The purpose of this talk is just to question whether your business allows you to pursue your own definition of wellness. If you're struggling with the concept, I think an easy way to think about it is just that every human needs at least these 5 things in order to thrive: exercise, sleep, healthy eating habits, a good community, and mental or spiritual health. So perhaps a simpler question is just simply to ask, okay, does my business allow me to pursue wellness in at least these 5 categories? If not, maybe you need to rethink whether your business is actually healthy and successful for you. Now, here's where someone may come up with an objection, and that is, well, look, Kirk, wellness sounds great, blah, blah, we all want to be happy, but listen, every business needs a lot of sacrifice from its owner in order to survive. I would largely agree with that. I think that every business is going to go through certain seasons of its time, for sure, especially in the early stages, where the business owner is probably going to sacrifice. So I'm not suggesting here that you should never work or work as little as possible. But surely we should see those times as the exceptions rather than the rule. I've had those times in my own life, for sure. A few years back, my wife and I learned that our beloved forever home that we just purchased had 6 figures of foundation damage, as did the homes of many of our neighbors. I mean, we were suddenly faced with this mountain of financial debt and these agonizing choices. We had no idea what to do. And then on top of that, we learned that we were pregnant with our 5th child, which, like, hooray, we love kids, and also, like, kids are expensive, right? The financial stress increased. And then on top of that, this little known illness from the other side of the world, maybe you've heard of, called COVID-19 hit, and suddenly I thought I was going to lose my business. It was a time of deep personal stress for us. And then it actually got worse. Just in the height of the stress of all that time, my wife went through a difficult miscarriage. We ended up losing the baby. Wellness is not how I would describe that time in our business. I just remember staggering into the office, just grief-stricken. And yet I still had to hop on this sales call and pretend everything's okay and talk about this advertising campaign. It was very difficult, but also I was the business owner, and I did need to show up. And I understood that. So am I saying that you'll never work for it? No, absolutely not. But it's really important to see the trajectory of your overall business and life should be moving you towards wellness and not away from it. By the way, I think that the health of an organization is composed of the wellness of every part of it. So I think that means your employees as well. Certainly, we can never guarantee personal happiness of our employees, but we as business owners certainly can work to support or erode employee wellness. And if you really want to get practical about it, well, Oxford University found that employees are 13% more productive when they're happy. So it's sustainable as well. So as you consider these things, does your business look like a successful business? And I don't mean that by the size of it. I mean, are you pursuing the purpose for which your business exists in a sustainable way as you pursue your own and those around you wellness? If so, great job. You have a successful business, and like, who cares how big it is? I'd like to close by contrasting 2 people. The first is this fictional person in Mr. Wonderful story. Do you remember him? He sacrificed his wife, his dog, his mom. He sacrificed everything just so he could someday get freedom, whatever that is. Well, number one, like, what guarantee does he have that he would ever get to freedom? But also, even if he does get there, at what cost did he arrive? I just have to wonder if this fictional person, when he's laying his head down on his pillow at night, is he actually happier with the choices he made? Second person I'd like to contrast is a guy named Eddie James. Eddie and Artie James were farmers. Farmers, and they owned a cattle hauling business in Wisconsin for years. I mean, you have to think, it's beautiful out there. Rolling green hills, farms dotting every valley. The nearest town to where they live is 250 people in size, where everyone knows your name. Well, a few years back, Eddie tragically passed away from a farm accident. And so my wife and I loaded the kids in the car and headed over there to pay our respects. And I will never forget what happened that day. For nearly 4 hours in the wake that night, people stood outside of this small town funeral home in the pouring rain just to pay their respects to Eddie. I mean, we estimate that over 300 people were in attendance. That's more than lived in the nearest town. Eddie had made this profound impact on the lives of those in his family and his community, and they showed up that night in force to surround him in love. And I was there because Eddie's my grandfather. You see, Grandpa was a small business owner. He was on the local school board. He was a deacon in his local church. And he was actually a double Bronze Star recipient in the Korean War. And Grandpa and Grandma would drop everything to help the neighbors in need. Their business didn't prevent them from experiencing life and from raising and building and loving a family and from serving their community. Their business gave them the space to do that. I think we need a redefinition of business success. I think we need fewer people burning themselves and burning others out trying to start the next billion-dollar unicorn. And I think we need more small business owners in the U.S. who, like Eddie and Artie James, build a business focused on achieving its purpose that's sustainable, pursuing the wellness of those around them. And I think if we had this generation of small business owners who focus more on those 3 traits than just like making more money, I think we could actually change the world together. And I think we'd be happier for it. That's what I'm trying to do, and I hope you'll join me in this pursuit. Thank you so much.